It begins quietly, like a whisper turning into a rumor, until suddenly it feels like something slipped out that was never meant to be public. Kyle Busch, one of the most recognizable names in NASCAR history, may have just revealed more than intended about his future at Richard Childress Racing. And what he revealed isn't exactly reassuring. While headlines claim his contract option was picked up, the reality underneath feels far more shaky, far more tense, and far more dramatic than it appears. Kyle Busch isn't just any driver. He's a two-time Cup Series champion with more than 200 victories across NASCAR's top 3 national divisions. His reputation was built on dominance, shattered records, and relentless intensity. For 15 seasons, he was the face of Joe Gibbs Racing, the place where he won titles and became one of the most feared competitors in the garage. When he stunned the sport in 2000 by leaving that powerhouse to join Richard Childress Racing, it felt like the beginning of something daring, risky, and potentially historic. Early on, that gamble seemed to pay off. Kyle Busch wasted no time making noise. 3 wins in the first 13 races of the 2023 season. Auto Club Speedway, Talladega, and Gateway. The No. 8 car looked reborn. The confidence returned. The fire was obvious. Suddenly, people were talking about RCR as a legitimate championship contender again. Then, everything went quiet. The wins stopped. Victory lane disappeared. Weeks turned into months filled with frustration, poor finishes, and missed chances, and that early spark slowly faded into doubt. Fast forward to now. RCR announces it has exercised Kyle Busch's option for 22.6. At first glance, that sounds like security, like trust, like commitment. But once you look closer, the concerns start to show. This isn't a long-term extension. It's not a multi-year deal. It's a single-year option. A classic prove-it contract. That's why it feels like a leak. If everything were truly working, this decision wouldn't have been limited to just 1 year. Richard Childress tried to ease the speculation. Speaking to reporters, he said, "Kyle has been great to work with. I love a driver who hates losing. We've worked hard, and we've got exciting things ahead." Those words carry weight. They signal respect and belief. But they also sound like reassurance, the kind offered when everything isn't quite clicking yet. Kyle Busch didn't sugarcoat things either. He described his time at RCR as fun, but challenging. It's a simple statement, but it says a lot. Fun because early success reminded him of who he is. Challenging because lately he's been fighting uphill against teams like Hendrick Motorsports, Joe Gibbs Racing, and Team Penske, organizations with stronger alliances, deeper data, and consistent week-to-week speed. And that's where the situation gets even tougher. The NASCAR driver market is extremely tight. Most top-tier teams are already locked in. Hendrick Motorsports just committed long-term to William Byron. Joe Gibbs Racing has no open seats, and Denny Hamlin's number 11 appears secure as long as sponsorship remains steady. Team Penske's lineup is stable as well, despite fan criticism of Austin Cindric. Any other move for Kyle Busch would likely be a sideways step at best. That's why this 1-year deal feels less like loyalty and more like circumstance. Kyle Busch is now 40 years old. That's not old by NASCAR standards. Drivers like Kevin Harvick and Mark Martin proved success is possible well into your 40s. Kyle still has the passion and the skill. But there's an uncomfortable reality no one likes to mention: his cost. Future Hall of Famers don't come cheap, and teams are increasingly prioritizing younger, less expensive drivers with long-term potential. That tension defines this agreement. RCR gives Kyle Busch another season. Kyle Busch gives RCR another season, and both sides quietly wait to see what happens next. The contract itself almost feels secondary, because the real challenge isn't the paperwork. It's everything working against him as he tries to make that year count. One of Kyle Busch's biggest battles right now isn't against another driver. It's against the car. The next-gen car permanently changed NASCAR, and for Kyle, it completely altered the rules. This isn't the same machine he dominated for years. His driving style was aggressive, loose, and right on the edge. He muscled the car into submission. The next-gen car doesn't reward that approach. It penalizes it. Kyle has openly admitted he's still searching for the right feel, and that honesty matters. When a driver like Kyle Busch can't control the car the way he wants, frustration builds quickly. Before the pandemic, drivers had 2 to 3 hours of practice on race weekends. That time was critical, especially for someone like Kyle. He's always relied on feedback, communication with his crew chief, and small adjustments that turn a decent setup into a winning one. Now, practice is limited to about 20 minutes, barely enough time to get settled, let alone experiment. With such a narrow window, there's no margin for error. For a driver who thrives on fine-tuning, that change has been brutal. Then there's the team. Richard Childress Racing is iconic, but it's not the environment Kyle Busch came from. Joe Gibbs Racing operates on a massive scale with enormous resources, deep databanks, and engineering strength that allows them to solve problems faster than most. RCR, in comparison, is still playing catch-up. They've made efforts, bringing in people like Richard Boswell and Johnny Klausmeier, but missing out on top-tier leaders like Rodney Childers speaks volumes. They're closing the gap, but the summit is still just out of reach. Geography doesn't help either. Most NASCAR powerhouse teams are based around Charlotte, North Carolina, the center of the sport. RCR is headquartered in Welcome, North Carolina, a quieter, more remote location that can make recruiting and retaining elite talent more difficult. Kyle Busch recently mentioned wanting to spend more time at the shop. That sounds positive on the surface, but it also reveals the reality beneath it. He knows increased involvement may be necessary just to stay competitive. Data is another factor. Modern NASCAR is driven by information. Teams with strong technical alliances gain enormous advantages. Just look at how 23XI Racing benefits from its relationship with Joe Gibbs Racing. Faster decisions, quicker improvements. RCR doesn't have that kind of pipeline. And in today's Cup Series, lacking data means falling behind every Sunday. All of this explains why that one-year option carries so much weight. RCR confirmed that Kyle Busch and Austin Dillon will remain in their Cup cars for 2025. That brings stability, but also hesitation. This wasn't a bold, long-term endorsement. It was RCR using an option already in place. A cautious wait-and-see move. That choice affects the entire organization. Younger drivers are paying attention. Austin Hill has performed well in the Xfinity Series, but at 31, time is becoming a factor. If his opportunity doesn't come soon, it may never come. Jesse Love is younger and talented, but still developing. He's made Cup starts and shown potential,